You're listening to Aviation Marketing Hangar Flying, the community for the best sales and marketing professionals in the aviation industry. You can't learn to fly just from a book. You learn from other pilots who know the tools, the skills, and the territory. Your hosts, John and Paula Williams, are your sales and marketing test pilots. They take the risks for you and share strategies, relevant examples, hacks, and how-tos. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes so you won't miss a thing.
Welcome to Aviation Marketing Hangar Flying, episode number 52, short, medium, and long-term marketing investments. So I'm Paula Williams.
And I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help you folks out there sell more products and services in the aviation world.
Absolutely. So there might be questions and comments and other things that come up as you listen to this and or any of our other podcasts or articles or anything like that. So you can reply on our website or on social media and just use the hashtag AvGeekMarketing so that I will find them and make sure that we reply. All right, so today we are talking about where to make investments in your marketing system. And there are reasons that you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket, just like when you're investing, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket, right, John?
Of course.
The reason for that is because in marketing, as in every other thing, there are some things that are going to give you immediate results and some things that are going to take longer. And a lot of people kind of tend toward the immediate results. And that's almost kind of like when you eat nothing but sugar. You feel really good temporarily, but then an hour later you get a headache, and as soon as the sugar high wears off, you need more sugar. So you really need to have a balanced diet, if we want to put it that way, of marketing investments as well as anything else that you're doing, right? So the problem with those short-term investments is they tend to be what we call random acts of marketing, right?
Yes, they do.
So somebody calls your office and says, I have this really great deal on magazine space. Or I can do an email broadcast for you for, a great price, or whatever the situation is. And that's wonderful if it fits into your plan. But if it doesn't fit into your plan, or even worse, if you don't have a plan, then it doesn't go so well, right?
You need an integrated marketing system.
Exactly. And your integrated marketing system should include some short, medium, and long-term marketing investments. So let's talk about what we mean here. Short-term investments would be things that you can get results from in less than a week. And there is a time and a place when those things are absolutely necessary, right?
Of course.
Like if you're having an event and you've got 10 extra seats to fill and it's next week, and you really can't wait to get some results. Or if you're having a cash flow issue and you absolutely positively need to get some cash before the end of the month, there's lots of things that you can do. And these are effective. I don't want to say that they're not. I just want to say that
expensive.
They're usually more expensive than they're worth in the long run, especially if they are the only thing that you do. So, these are things that create these little peaks in your website traffic, or peaks in your sales volume, or, whatever numbers that you're looking at. So, they are not going to give you a sustainable business. But some of these things are things like email broadcasts. We like to use Aviation broadcast to get real quick results for something that we want to do. They can usually turn around a really great, nice looking email in a week, send it out to their database and get some new customers, or at least some new leads. We want to have a really good call to action on any of these things, and they have to be done right. So just because they're quick, that doesn't mean you should be sloppy, right? Unlike my handwriting.
True.
Right. The other thing is pay-per-click ads. Now, this has gotten more expensive and more technical over the last 5 years or so. And I almost don't recommend this to anybody unless they have worked with pay-per-click ads before, because there's a ton of options. There's a ton of ways to waste money, and there's a ton of ways to do it wrong. and get a bunch of irrelevant traffic that you're paying a lot of money for that doesn't really do you any good, right?
Even if you do it correctly, if your per sale dollar volume isn't enough to support it, there are people out there that we know of that are paying anywhere from $1,500 to $10,000 a month in these pay-per-click ads.
Right. And if you're paying a couple $100 for each conversion, so let's say you have a 10% conversion rate and you have 100 leads that you get from this, and they're $1 a click, then you need to make sure that margin, that profit margin, is at least $100. Otherwise, you're wasting money, right, John?
Yep. And they're not cheap. No, very few of them are as cheap as $1.
Exactly. So you have to be very, very careful with the math on pay-per-click ads, or it's really, really easy to way outspend the benefit there. Banner ads, same thing. You can create them this afternoon, launch them in some, using some services and things like that this week, and start getting clicks to your website. Now, again, clicks to your website is not necessarily sales.
No, because they are not qualified leads.
Exactly. Retargeting, this is my new favorite toy. This is actually one of those technologies that actually works. Basically, what happens is when somebody visits a website, they are, in most cases, identified by the ad company. So basically, they come to the ABCI website, and then they go off to Wall Street Journal after that. There's some ad space on the Wall Street Journal that has been sold to a service, a retargeting service that will serve them an ABCI ad saying, I know you were just at this website. Here's something you might be interested in. I know you probably just got distracted. You should come back and buy something. So this is somebody that's already been to my website. So I know they're my ideal target market, or at least I have a better idea that they're my ideal target market than if they're just on the internet in the wild, right?
Yes.
And they are a little more expensive than pay-per-click ads, but have a much better return on investment because they're not so unwashed, right?
Well, they're less expensive, and they are targeting people who have already perused your website.
Right. They're actually a little bit more expensive than the pay-per-click ads, but they are less expensive altogether because they have a higher conversion rate, right?
Right.
Okay. So I pay more per click, but I actually make more. I'm more likely to make money from each click. Okay. So that's a cost versus value proposition there. Last thing, there's always the good old-fashioned cold calls. So all of these things, we're actually trading time for money. These are all very time-intensive or expensive kinds of things.
Well, it strikes me that in this day and age of social media and online stuff, I don't see a real reason for it to be a cold call.
Right.
Not if you've got a proper marketing plan and a marketing system. There should be actually very, very few cold calls. You should have touched them somehow because of their interest some way or another.
Right. So our favorite way of doing this is by using LinkedIn to look for contacts on a particular topic or in a particular category, in a particular job title, those kinds of things, who have an interest or are most likely to have an interest in your product or service. You can look them up on LinkedIn. You can spend 15 minutes filling out our sales call checklist, right? And getting prepared for that sales call. And it won't sound like a cold call, even if this is a person you've never talked to before.
Or you can ignore that, hire a sales guy, pay him a high percentage, and have a lower percentage of conversions on cold calls.
Exactly. Right. So, if you need money this month, those are 5 ideas that will actually work and do a very good job for you. Email broadcasts, pay-per-click, banner ads, retargeting ads, and cold calls using quotation marks, using LinkedIn as a means of warming them up, right?
Whatever it takes.
Exactly. And once again, any marketing depends on 3 things: the list, the offer, and the presentation. So these are just presentation methods. You have to have a good list and you have to have a good offer, or you're not going to make sales. Okay, so those are short-term investments, and you should have some of these that you're doing. One or two that you're using on a regular basis. I love, if I had to pick two, the ones that I use, retargeting and an occasional email broadcast about a particular topic, just to reach a new audience that I haven't seen before. So yeah, one or two in each category is what we're after. So medium-term investments. Let's talk about these. So postcards are the least expensive of the direct mail, in the direct mail family. Very respected in the aviation industry. A lot of people doing them and a lot of people getting really good results from them. They usually do need to be repeated more than once, which is why they're in the medium term category. Also because you have to get them printed, you have to wait for them to be delivered, all of those things. This is snail mail after all, right?
Yes.
Right. More than that, you can do direct mail packages. We're actually working on some today with Halloween candy and fun things like that, just to make sure that they get opened. Postcards can sometimes be ignored. So we kind of like using packages. Things in boxes are a lot more likely to get past the gatekeeper and into the hands of the person that you want to be making a decision. So those are kind of our direct mail family. Webinars take a little while to plan, and we usually like to count on at least a 6-week marketing plan for a webinar, because first you got to sell the webinar, right? Get people in the seats, get people to attend. So this is a medium-term investment. We're looking at a 6-week to 3-month ramp up for some of these things to get the materials together, get your technology straight, get it all tested. Any number of technical things can go wrong. So, we do these for clients all the time, and we do many, many, many webinars. But if this is not your usual thing, you might want to consider having someone like ABCI do your webinar for you, so that all you have to do is concentrate on the delivery and the materials and let us worry about the technical stuff. It is getting easier than it used to be, but there's still a number of things, and John happens to be really, really good at getting all the technical details right of how that works. So webinars are a great option. Magazine ads, usually there's a lead time of 1 to several months depending on the publication, and also very credible. This is something we advise if you have a new product or a new company and you really need to borrow the credibility of a larger institution, because if you run an ad in Aviation Week, then of course you can put the Aviation Week banner on your website, showing that you're associating your brand with theirs, and that's really helpful. And trade shows. How long does it take to plan a trade show?
How long do you have?
Exactly. If you download our trade show checklist, we've got checklists for 90 days out, 120 days out, 360 days out. Basically, as soon as you get done with a trade show, you should start planning the next one, because the more time you spend, the better that's going to go. But we've had people exhibit successfully at trade shows in 6 weeks or less, if it's an odd situation or an opportunity that comes up on a short notice.
Let's digress a little bit to magazine ads.
Okay.
If you're going to do that, and a trade show, either one, you need to think about going forward and continuing to do those, because if you just do a couple or 2 or 3 and stop, people wonder what happened.
Right.
Maybe you're a flash in the pan, or maybe you went out of business.
That's true. In aviation, consistency is a big deal because trust is such a huge part of sales in our industry. So if you are, you need to have a long-term plan in order to do magazines or trade shows successfully. Because of that, people notice magazine ads when they first appear and then when they stop appearing, right?
Evidently.
Those are the 2 times they notice them the most. Same thing with trade shows. They notice your first appearance, and a lot of times trade shows will give you preferential visibility in a trade show the first time you exhibit. But then people will also notice when you stop exhibiting at that trade show as well. and you will be talked about, right?
On both ends.
Right. Okay, so now some long-term investments. Once again, you want to make sure that you're doing a couple of these things in each category. So you got some short, some medium, and some long-term investments, and that's just about keeping your company and your pipeline healthy. So branding is a long-term investment. And here we're not talking about the color of your logo. We are talking about the positioning of your company in the marketplace, the messaging that you put together to communicate, where you fit with all of your competitors, the value that you bring. All of that stuff is long-term and should be thought of that way. This is not something where you just buy a branding package from somebody, get a set of business cards, and march forward. You really want to spend some time thinking deeply and long about your branding and making sure that you're on message, because that's really one of the things that's going to set you apart. Email your own email list, setting up a CRM system, and building a list to send emails to on a regular basis. This is incredibly effective. Our Marketing Mondays, we have a list of a couple thousand people that we're always cleaning and always adding to, so it's a kind of a rotating couple of thousand. But it's really effective at getting people to our website, letting them know about new things that we're offering, basically letting them know about new podcasts coming out and other kinds of things. So it's very, very effective, but it's something that you have to commit to in the long term to make it work really well. A website refresh, we recommend that people do this every 3 years or so.
And that's pushing it.
Yeah, do minor tweaks and things like that more often every few months, but at least every 3 years you want to think about doing a major website refresh, because the technology is always changing. Online assets like apps, reservation systems, calculators, those can be major investments, and it can take a while to get them right, but you want to put them in place as they help your customers make good purchases. Referral programs. This is probably the best return on investment of any marketing activity that you can put together, but it does depend on the fact that you've already got customers, right? So that's a long-term investment, putting that together and tweaking it and getting it right. Sales tools and training, long-term investment in your people, helping them become better at what they do, giving them better tools to use them, to use those things, better presentations, better software for, GoToMeeting, things like that. So those are long-term investments. Books and larger collateral, these can be built out of content marketing over time. So if you do a blog post once a week, you end up with 50 articles that could be compiled into a book. If you planned it correctly, you've got your table of contents just building itself as you do this. And larger collateral, like larger presentations and other kinds of things that you can use over and over again. And great copy. So great sales letters and great brochures that you can use for years at a time with minor tweaks. Those are really good long-term investments as well. Okay, so you want to make sure that you've got some of these long-term investments. We recommend at least 2, and those would be very different depending on your situation, right? Here are some that kind of transcend category, right? So social media, you can set up a profile this afternoon and let your friends know that you're doing this, and maybe get some response this week. So that can fit in the short-term category. In the medium-term category, you're wanting to build your audience over time, to build a really large following that's really worth a lot of visibility and a lot of respect. Getting thousands of followers who do what you ask them to do takes years. We've been working on our social media for 15 years. Most of the social media platforms haven't been around that long. But we've been building a mailing list and building our audience via social media and other means for about that long. And now we have several thousand Facebook and Twitter people in our audience who will do what we ask them to do, which is wonderful. So when we have a new client that has a new profile and we ask people in our social media to like this other profile, hundreds of them will do it. And that is worth something to us. And if we ask people's opinion on a survey or something like that, hundreds of people will do it, which is worth something to us. But that doesn't happen overnight. Like I said, that took about 15 years to get where we are. And we wouldn't want it to happen overnight because, you can always go buy 1,000 Twitter followers. You've probably gotten spam advertising, that sort of thing. But they're not real people. And there certainly aren't real people who are interested in what you have, in the subject that you're talking about in your social media.
Well, they may be real people, but they're not that interested.
Exactly. They're not real buyers of your product or service or real thought leaders in your community. So I actually just got an email from someone that said Twitter changed his life, and it's because he got noticed on Twitter by some media who invited him on a talk show, and the rest is history, as they say. So you never know what's going to happen on social media. It's a good one to include as a factor in your sales and marketing plan, but it certainly isn't a sales and marketing plan in and of itself, right?
No.
Okay. Content marketing. We had mentioned books earlier. Content can take a lot of different forms. So if you write a really great article, you can do a ton of different things with it. In the short term, of course, you can post it on your website and get that nice little spike in traffic this week, right? Medium term, you can print it out and send it in your information packages to prospects and customers. Long term, you can have it compiled into a book. Some of our articles from 2010 and before are still getting hits on our website. So, content is small, medium, and large, or short, medium, and long-term effects. Networking groups like our Insider Circle. When people join that group, they might get a problem solved this week. If they ask the right question in our Facebook group and somebody gives them a great answer, they have immediate gratification, which is great. But those relationships, like any other, take time to develop, and those things build over time. So the more you participate and the longer you're in the group, the more that develops, and that's probably true of any other networking group or marketing group as well. And consulting. If you hire ABCI to do something for you, you're probably going to get some advice that you can use right away, and you may get some advice that you may use years from now, or you may get some actual physical marketing assets like your website or a brochure or something like that you can use years from now. So short, medium, and long impact, right?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So the answer to this this week's podcast is that you really want to diversify your assets, and you want to make sure that you're doing something in the short, medium, long, and transcendent categories for your marketing. And think about that when you're doing your marketing budget. We have a marketing budget worksheet that you can download from abci1.com/budget. You might want to go through and circle, how many of the things that you're planning to fund next year are short term, how many are medium term, and how many are long term. And make sure that you've got at least 2 of each. You think, John?
Oh, yes, at least.
Exactly.
3 is a better number.
3 is a better number. The more the better, right? More is better. Nobody does everything, as far as all the marketing activities that we talk about. There are books written
on the power of 3, so use 3.
Use 3. Okay. We'll switch our philosophy to 3 then. 3 in each category. All right. So, and if you are really limited on budget or anything else, then make sure you have at least 1 from every category. But 3 is better. More is better. Okay. You may also want to see using a marketing calendar to lighten your load. That was episode 8. That's really helpful in this regard. You can plan out building in your short, medium, and long-term things into your calendar. Budgeting in the holidays, episode 10. The holidays are coming up, so you want to make sure you have a look at that. Trade show disasters and how to avoid them. That's probably the worst medium-term investment that you can make, and you want to make sure that you spend your money wisely, right?
Yep. So, Mr. Ziegler says, go sell more stuff. America needs the business.
Absolutely.
Well, he said that anyway.
He did. We like Zig Ziglar. He was quite the guy. All right, so subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, and please do leave us a rating. Have a great week.
And we'll see you next time. Ciao.
Thanks for joining us for Aviation Marketing Hangar Flying, the best place to learn what really works in sales and marketing in the aviation industry. Remember to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating.
You know you could.